Hey everyone, it's Tom Kradza, and we haven't done this in a little while, but on this episode of the Your Life, Your Term show, it's a bit of a rock star fireside chit chat. Whereas myself, Carlo Batara, my brother Nick Kradza, and Mike Desormeaux, we kind of sit around, and I thought we were going to dive straight into a condo talk, but we ended up talking about everything except for condos for at least the first 20-25 minutes. So be prepared. If you want to skip through that, feel free to skip through to the 25-minute mark or so, and then we start having a casual conversation about the Toronto condo scene, or actually the condo scene in all of the Golden Horseshoe, and we talk about population and interest rate stuff and the whole bit. But before that, we're all over the map talking about surfing and tequila and DMT and everything that just came to mind randomly. So that's why we're calling this one the Rock Star Fireside Chit Chat. Hopefully you enjoy this. And look, if you are listening to this and you haven't checked out some of the population reports that we put out, you have to go to rockstarinnercircle.com/reports. The latest one is Ontario's population explosion, the untold story. When you look at some of the data going on here, and we referenced some of this during this episode of the show, the population growth that's happening right here is completely unheard of. And when you're from this area, until you travel around North America and come back here, you don't quite fully appreciate the explosion in population that's happening right here. We had some friends recently come from the States, and they were just shaking their heads at what is happening in Toronto from how they remember it when they were working up here some 10 or 15 years ago. So this is something kind of unique that's happening in Toronto. Take a look at some of the data. And the reason this data is important, as real estate investors, the population growth is obviously driving demand for properties right around the Golden Horseshoe. People are moving in and need rentals, and that's what's driving the condo market. People are, families who were going to try to buy in Toronto itself are moving out both east, north, and west all around the city and the entire Golden Horseshoe. So check out this data. It's really important. Sometimes I think none of us see the forest for the trees, and this is an attempt to kind of bring some clarity to that. So you can go get those reports at rockstarinnercircle.com/reports. And with that, let's get on with the show.
Are you ready to live life on your terms? Is it time to take charge? Real estate, business building, the economy, health and nutrition, and more. It's the Your Life, Your Term show with Tom and Nick Kradza. Are you ready? Let's go.
Okay, we are live. Nick, you there? Can you hear me?
I'm here, and I can hear you so crystal
perfect,
clear. It's
perfect,
amazing.
Perfect.
Let's talk about the sound quality.
Let's, Mike was just talking about books. I just gave Carlo a book. So if you're listening to this, I just gave Carlo. So you're here with Carlo Batara, Nick Kradza, my younger brother, who I have to keep in check, and Mike Desormeaux. And Aftermath, I gave Carlo this book. Aftermath, it started a conversation on books. And Mike, you were saying that you just showed your wife a series of books that you have. Where do you keep your books? In your basement?
In the basement.
In a box?
One room. It's like my dedicated library. No, there's nice shelving.
So there's other people building a library that nobody will want? There was more of us.
And then Sarah asked, she's like, do you have anything from Eckhart Tolle? I think it was The Power of Now. She specifically asked for it. I'm like, yeah, I do. I brought her downstairs to show her the secret passageway to this library, and she was like, you never came down, you never looked at all the books that I have. So most women have like purses and shoe fetishes. I got a book fetish. Doesn't mean I read them all, but I feel smarter that just them being in the house at my disposal.
Yes. Oh, you want to talk about this subject? Let me just go do a quick read.
And supplements. I've seen a picture of your supplement cabinet.
That's
in
a problem
thing.
too.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah,
but
good
dude,
call.
Eckhart Tolle, I listened to that in my Honda Civic. That changed my life, that freaking book, man. That book was crazy.
Yeah, if those,
I love that book.
Yeah, like those books, it's almost like it's got to hit you at the right time, because you could read it 5 years later and you're like, what did I read?
Piece of shit.
Yeah.
I've recommended books to people and then read them after I've recommended them.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, I can't recommend
Been there, done
book.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, that book, The Power of Now. And then I think his next book, or one of his other books, was like A New World or something.
Yes. Yeah,
that took me probably 3 to 4 minutes per page to read.
Right.
It was so dense.
Yeah.
And I remember handing it to someone saying, this book is going to change your life. 2 weeks later, they handed it back to me, said, Tom, maybe this is for you, but I can't even make any sense of what this guy's talking about. Take this book back, man. Get this out of my hands. But anyway. And then I also just heard today, I want to tell you guys that Michael Jordan's starting at Tequila. Do you guys know this?
Yeah, you told me that.
Yeah, with 4 or 5 NBA owners.
Oh.
Boston Celtics, the Milwaukee Bucks guy. I don't know why I look at Carlo.
So
when I talk about
the only
NBA.
reason Tom's telling you that is because he wants to show that he was ahead of the curve again. And his why he started liking tequila. That's why everyone else is liking it now.
Yeah,
So
that's no secret.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. It's like there's endless stories of this. Yeah.
Because people have not liked tequila for a long time.
Yeah. Oh no, not until Tom started liking it. That's the way it worked,
No.
yeah.
It's definitely gotten a lot trendier. And yeah,
See,
totally.
it's just matter of fact, Carlo.
Instantly.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, totally. And but there's a podcast right now with Joe Rogan and Dan Aykroyd. Have you guys heard it?
No.
No.
You got to listen to the first 10 minutes of Dan Aykroyd explaining his vodka.
Who's Dan Aykroyd again?
Dan
I know
Aykroyd,
the
how
name,
old
I
are
don't-
you?
I don't-
Blues
Millennial?
Brothers, actor, comedian.
Oh, okay. I remember
Oh
the
my
name. I just don't know
gosh,
who he is.
We're old.
You're millennial, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha.
I don't know what he
You're not a millennial. You're like
I am.
30. How old are you?
I'm not telling you on this podcast. I don't like a billion people listen to this podcast now.
You're not a millennial.
And then
I am.
Carlo, have you heard of 1942 tequila, Don Julio?
I'd heard of Don Julio.
No excuse. You are a millennial, but there's no excuse not to know.
No, I know that one. It's the clear bottle.
Great. Now we're putting Carlo on the spot.
It's goldish.
Gold.
It's right
But
there.
th- yeah.
Tom always keeps
Yeah,
it
yeah.
there.
So they do not sell that at the LCBO anymore.
Oh, well, I was just in Mexico, so I definitely drank a lot of that, and they had to pay. We had to pay extra to drink that, or you had to have the
Yeah,
platinum
that's-
bracelet.
That's the real deal.
But the grandma-looking bottle that Tom has, I have
the
no idea.
Class
Class
Azul.
Azul?
Yeah.
That's actually some people prefer it over the Don Julio 42.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's different levels of the Class Azul too. Some in Toronto, and I'm saying it because you go to all the bars and stuff. Most of them will have a higher end Class Azul that's more expensive than the 42.
Wow. I don't
It's
drink,
like a
guys.
mix,
I don't
just
drink. I
don't-
don't do any drugs. I don't even go out at night. Look at that. Everyone's just
yeah.
blank.
Yeah. Like, don't
So what? We
feed
just
us
gonna
some
start
kind of
lying
bullshit.
on the podcast now. That's what it is.
But you did go. Aren't you just going surfing again, or you actually went surfing again this year or something?
Yeah, I finally got to the proper surf trip since I tore my Achilles and just changed my perspective on everything I'm doing again.
What was the catalyst to you going?
I like that setup. Basically, about a month before, I think Rob Minton, is that his name?
Yeah.
Maybe a month or 2 months before, he walked into the office and I was like, hey. And he was like, hey, what's up? I remember you. You're the surfer. And then Nick creeps out from the back. He's like, nah, he works now. He just works. He's a worker. He's not a surfer. I see him every day. And it's not. And I was like, fuck, you're actually true.
Made him question the purpose to his life.
Yeah, this
He
shit
had to
hurt
go
my
surfing.
feelings. And I was like, wait a minute. He's right. I do just work. So,
Weren't you supposed to go to Costa Rica this week?
yeah. So I'm supposed to go. I'm trying to find a flight for either Thursday or Friday. I was supposed to leave today.
Is that for surfing?
Yeah, just to
Nice.
surf and then meet with Greg and Patricia. They're doing a mastermind, an Amazon mastermind. And then Patricia's like, you should come. And I was like, well, it's in Costa Rica. I'll definitely go.
Oh, really? Greg
Yeah.
who? Greg Kowalchuk?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, so it's like a super private mastermind that they're going to.
Oh, so okay, I didn't
Yeah.
know because we weren't invited to it.
No, and it's like, no, they're not running it. They got invited to it. But yeah.
Okay, got it.
And so I'm going to meet up with them right after.
Cool. And where were you earlier this year surfing? Was it Costa Rica?
Yeah, Costa Rica and Tamarindo.
And that's a good spot?
An amazing spot. Costa Rica just in general. If you've never surfed before, Costa Rica has some really good beginner waves, just in general. And then Tamarindo is just the type of spot that's like super touristy. And I've got some really good friends out there. Shout out to Elias from Salt, a Surf is Life Therapy. And he used to live here. I used to surf with him. And I literally hit him up and I was like, man, I don't know if I can surf anymore. When I was in California in April, I surfed like shit. And I was just like, damn, I can't just pick it up and go. And so I just I've been training really hard. And then I went to Tamarindo, met up with Elias, and he was like, bro, don't tell me you can't surf. Let's go right now. And then we went. And
So he moved there from Toronto?
yeah, he actually is from, what's that country that has all the beautiful women that is in volatile right now, like super?
Colombia?
Venezuela.
Venezuela.
So he lived here, couldn't stay here he worked at a surf shop, which is funny, and then couldn't get immigration, and then got shipped or basically asked to leave. Then he left and then went to Venezuela, and it was the shits. And then he ended up in Costa Rica, which is every surfer's dream to live in Costa Rica.
And now he runs some surf school there?
Yeah, he runs a surf school called SALT, which means Surf as Life Therapy. And that's pretty much what we use surfing for. It's like our favorite thing to do, but also it's like a good way for us to calm ourselves down and chill out. No drugs, no partying, no alcohol, just surfing.
Why do you keep saying no drugs? Every time
'Cause I
someone
feel
says
like-
no drugs a lot, I feel like they do a lot of drugs.
Trying to like overcompensate.
yeah, no drugs, no drugs.
Shit, I take all that back. We did all. But yeah, that's what I've been up to. And I just realized when I was surfing out there, I realized like surfing means so much to me that I would try to work and I couldn't even get like 30% of the stuff that I was doing when I was back home because I would just work. But when I would surf and do my stretches and do my meditation, I was like, wait a minute, there's only this much time I have to do work.
It.
So
I think part of me, because meditation's gotten so popular right now, I'm like this, just kind of like, oh my gosh, I don't want to hear anyone talk about meditation anymore because everyone talks about meditation. But I mean, I do believe you need time alone with yourself, whatever that means, whether it's at the gym or reading a book or reflecting on your thoughts, like whatever meditation is. But I feel like everyone's like, well, what's your meditation practice right now? Like, are you I'm meditating 30 minutes and I'm releasing natural DMT into my brain. And, you know, it's all this kind of shit. But did you go down and do that ayahuasca stuff? I forget.
Oh, shit. Yeah, I did that. That was years ago.
And you liked that?
I did. This is the first time I'm going to share this publicly again. Thanks for putting me on the spot, Tom.
You don't have to.
No, it's cool. You just asked me if I did ayahuasca, and I said yeah. But yeah, I did that back in I think 2016 or 2017. I don't remember. And that was in Peru, and I was in the Amazon for like 10, 11 days. That guy's actually sick, so I feel really bad. It was like this white dude from Phoenix, and he's lived in the Amazon for like 30 or 40 years or something, and recommended by, I'm not going to call anyone out, by a few people that I look to as mentors, and ended up being amazing. Like, it's not fun in the sense where it's like, hey guys, you want to do some mushrooms and hang out in the forest? It's nothing like that. It's intense work. It's intense. Like if you treat it that way, and I've always thought of ayahuasca and all those plant medicines as inner work versus just going out to have fun, you know?
That's how I've always kind of understood it, and we've never done it. Mike, you've never done it either. No. Our mom, you know that, went and did it before I think anyone ever mentioned it to us in our lives. Our mom's
that's the
like,
first I'd heard of it.
We're going. She's like
another person that I wasn't going to call out, but
yeah. Well, I think she's late 60s at that point. I feel like it was 10 years ago. She's like, I'm going to some Brazilian rainforest to meet a shaman, and I'm going to do some plant medicine in the forest or
they
in the
call
rainforest.
It the mother,
and that was a lot. That was before I had never even heard of it, so I didn't even know. But we know our mom for long enough that we know, okay, you do crazy shit, and if you're gonna go do that,
so that hurt. Like what's happening to the Amazon right now, like actually really hurt mentally and emotionally. I never even shared that with anyone. Like I was like, what the fuck are these guys doing?
What do you mean, all the fires that are going on right now?
Yeah, because they're not natural fires. The Brazilian president's a little nuts, and he's literally just creating these fires, paying people to create these fires. In short, like, I'm obviously, don't fact check me and all these things, but he's basically. It
sounds like it needs some fact checking.
No, there's a lot of facts, but there's a lot of facts. There's even there's a really cool show called Patriot Act.
Okay.
And then with what's his name? He's part of the Daily Show. Hassan Minaj. He's not Trevor Noah,
the comedian guy.
Yeah, so he had a whole bit about what the Brazilian president is doing right now that it's not getting any light, and lots of facts in there.
Just give me the summary. He's lighting on fire to get aid from around the world, maybe.
No, so before the fires even happened, this was already happening at a smaller level in Brazil by the president. He shut down certain segments of the government in order to allow people to just go into the Amazon and do whatever the fuck they want. And there were smaller scale fires that were traced back to the companies that he shut down, or the entities that he shut down that would have stopped these things. And then each tree is something like ridiculous. Each tree has evaluated to been like $147,000 of income for Brazil. And that's why they literally chose places of land. And Patriot Act breaks this down amazingly in a funny way, but also a very serious way of like, Brazil's messing up some shit right now.
I think we gotta plant some trees.
I think we got.
I mean, if you go to the Amazon, it's
you get half that.
Yeah, you can't plant trees. Like the Amazon's just so unique. Like it's crazy. Like Iquitos, where I was in Peru, is the largest city in the world that has no road access. Road or you can only, not even water access. You can't get there.
So how'd you get there?
An airplane, and like you can't. There's no road access to get to that spot.
Huh.
It's the largest city that has no road access.
What's really high or something?
No, there's just no roads. It's in the middle of the Amazon. and like you literally get dropped off in an airplane, and it's this ghetto. It looks like you're in a major city, but all the roads there are shipped through either airplanes or these massive shipping truck. What are they called? Ships, containers. And when you see these in the Amazon, you're like, are we in the ocean? It's kind of like how people look at Lake Ontario.
Rewind for a second. All these ships are flown in to this city?
No, not the ships, the cars.
Oh,
and then
God.
I don't actually know logistically how those ships get in there, but they're, when you picture those giant shipping container ships crossing the ocean, those are all in Iquitos, in the Amazon rainforest in the middle by Iquitos.
I feel like you just gave me 7 days worth of research that I need to do now
dude,
on the Brazilian rainforest. And
no, but that's Peru. So Peru has the majority
Were you under the
of
influence when you saw these ships?
No.
In the forest?
I was actually nervous as shit. I was like, what am I doing? What did I sign up for?
I've never had to turn the mics down. I swear for this conversation, I've turned the mics down.
Are you stoned right now?
No, I wish.
What's happening here?
I would start doing the uncensored version.
Just one last thing. You know how it's trendy right now to go to some things where you don't even take ayahuasca does ayahuasca release DMT?
No, so what
No.
So what ayahuasca does is it induces DMT, and then it shuts down MEO3, I believe, which is the chemical that's also naturally produced in your body that stops DMT from reacting in your body.
Okay.
So DMT runs freely.
So
in
what's
your
the
body.
trend with some of these events or conferences now where you go to learn how to release DMT naturally yourself?
Oh, there's a few things. There's like breathing, which actually that's been around for a long time. Holotropic breathing. I've been wanting to do that for a while.
But have you found that it's getting trend that whole?
Absolutely. That's why I kept it a secret that I did ayahuasca for a long time, because everyone would be like, yeah, you look like the type of do that, you know.
Well, you do.
So that's why I just like, hey guys, this is inner work for me. I'm not going to share it with everyone, but everyone kind of knows now.
And then surfing again, next week you said?
Yeah, hopefully I can get a flight either between Thursday to Monday.
Nice, man. I'm happy you do need to go surfing, man. I'm happy for you, for real.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, it's important. And then Mike, what's going on with you? Because you're telling me a little bit. Mike, you can't see Mike if you're listening to this, obviously.
Oh yeah, we don't do video anymore.
We're gonna do video in the new office. We have too much going on, and we're just not doing video temporarily.
And I dressed up too. Last time I didn't dress up.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I can see you dressed up with your skull dress shirt on. But, you can't see this, but you are wearing a dress shirt, but it does have skulls all over it. But it does look nice. But Mike walks in here with bandages all over his body. So I don't know what the heck is going on.
One bandage on the arm, one
we got
on the
like
leg.
ayahuasca surfer.
I don't even know what to say. Tom's making fun of Carlo now. He's making fun of you.
I'm not making fun of anyone. I'm just like, what the heck is going on? Because I know this PRP stuff.
I'm offended. I'm offended.
Yeah. Oh shit.
Literally over an hour ago, I got my first PRP injection for the ACL that I tore. So
Mike's basically Kobe Bryant.
So walk through this.
Yeah.
What, they extract blood from you?
Yeah. So this is the surgeon that did the work on my knee. So he, you just basically lay down on a bed. He extract blood from you. He puts that through a centrifuge. That pulls out this.
Are you lying there while he's
I can hear. I heard the machine.
So you hear blood spinning around?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, you don't necessarily hear the blood. You hear the machine going.
Okay.
Yeah, and then he comes back out. So in this syringe now is this. It can range from white to salmon color, and it's these platelets that it's your own. It's your own blood, and from there these growth factors are extracted out.
Yeah, they told you it was
healing.
yours.
I know. Right?
Is this a long way of saying you took steroids?
Well, this is clearly experimental. It's not covered. You have to pay out of pocket.
Well,
and that gets
Kobe
injected.
did it years ago.
Well, hold on, let him finish.
Yeah.
No,
and it gets injected into the injury site. So it's very common right now for people that have, say, shoulder issues, tennis elbow.
So it's not stem
Achilles.
cells or anything like that.
No,
it's
a
just
little different.
Concentration of your blood that has more plasma. What did you say?
It's platelet-rich plasma. It's the growth factors for healing. So it's your own blood, and so it's just basically a higher concentration that they're injecting directly into the injured site. So in my case, had surgery 3 months ago with a replacement ACL. This is to help with that healing. Because the knee especially, it's encapsulated and there's not a lot of blood flow there. And that's why there's no repair on an ACL.
I think Mike should fly to the States and go get some growth hormone injected.
I told Mike I want to fly to
business.
Panama with them because all those U.S. doctors are going to Panama because they're losing their license for what they're doing in the States. Mm-hmm. I want to go to Panama to those U.S. doctors. Remember we heard about those guys that were injecting stem cells?
Yeah, Mel Gibson.
Yeah.
Mel
Gibson's dad.
That's right.
Yeah.
That was another Joe Rogan podcast
That's
where
right.
Mel Gibson's dad was going down there.
Yeah.
I totally want to do that stuff.
Yeah.
So when you go, Just let me know. Carlo will book a
I want to go too.
Is there
man.
surfing in Panama?
Absolutely.
We'll just
It's a
check
really
all the
good
boxes.
surf.
Yeah.
Surf, hurt ourselves. Get
But that's
themselves.
like 10 times the price of surf trip.
Yeah.
But that's crazy. I didn't know you can walk right out when you get PRP.
Yeah, it was literally an hour and a half ago.
Wow.
Yeah, it just feels like a lot of pressure in the knee right now, but it'll subside.
So do they give you like back
So
rest?
basically,
Hopefully.
wait a second, rewind. So it feels like crap.
Yeah, it doesn't feel
Yeah,
good.
you're limping.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
but apparently in 2 days it's going to start feeling better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So did they give you history behind it? Because the only thing I know about PRP is Kobe Bryant did it
Yeah.
in the off season,
Yeah.
and he'd had to go to Germany because it wasn't legal here or in
Gotcha.
the States.
Yeah.
And he would go to Germany. I didn't realize you could just walk right out after.
Yeah.
And so it's just supposed to speed your healing.
Correct. Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. You guys are I'm doing some stuff right now where I'm doing an 8-hour eating window from like 12 to 8 and just playing around with that. And my stuff seems so boring compared to what you're talking about and what you're talking about. I did talk to Dr. Cowan today about it though. He thinks I'm on the verge of either making it through it, and this is really working well for me, or crashing really hard. So tomorrow I have to take the cortisol test.
Gotcha.
Where throughout the day you measure your cortisol levels in that little spit test, and they give you
Yeah.
the results back. So I'm going to do that tomorrow and see what happens with that. But and then Nick, you don't have any injuries, or you haven't taken any drugs or anything like that. Okay. So
No, but it sounds like I'm missing out.
no, I'm just looking around. I'm like, does this guy have any bandages
I'm
on
gonna
him?
fly.
or-
I'm gonna fly to Costa Rica, go surfing, go to the Amazon, do some ayahuasca, and then stop just at Oakville Trafalgar, or not Oakville Trafalgar anymore, the Oakville Hospital, get some PRP on the way home.
Yeah.
That's my next week's schedule. So if you're looking for me, that's where I'll be.
Did you throw some tequila into that?
Yeah, I'll be drinking tequila the whole time.
We have to order this Don Julio 1942 tequila now by the case,
Wow.
because what Mike was saying and Nick was saying, because they don't sell it by the bottle at the liquor store. Mike, of course, always has a connection. So Mike has a friend who owns a restaurant. So through this guy, we bought a case of this.
Yeah,
tequila.
you need a license to get it. Because I went to the liquor store looking for it, and the guy's like, "I have a case in the back." I'm like, "Great, get it for me." And he's like, "No." I'm like, "What are you talking
It's
about?" He's
for
like,
him.
"You need like a reseller license to be able to get it now." And you didn't before last Christmas. You didn't. They changed it around the New Year.
I was gonna say I've definitely seen it before, but I didn't realize.
Yeah,
it
they
was
just
that
changed just the
exclusive.
LCBO. That's a challenge with the LCBO, man. You're just
Yeah,
stuck,
you
right?
live by
You
their
can't do
rules.
stuff.
Yeah, we're trapped.
The best part of this is I tell Nick, "Hey, the case has arrived." He's like, "Oh, great!" And I send him the invoice. It's over $1,200.
Oh, shit.
He's like, "This is cheaper than at the LCBO."
Yeah, I'm like, well, that's a deal, man. That's amazing.
How
And
many
I'm like,
bottles?
I thought it was 12 bottles, but it's 6.
I was gonna
I'm like,
ask
oh,
you.
That's why.
different.
You know why? That's why. I swear to God, 30 minutes later, not even, I get a text from Nick. "Hey, do you want to split this case with me?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure. I'll split the case." I don't even know how many bottles I'm splitting. I thought I was getting 6 bottles. I didn't know the case was 6 bottles, so I'm getting 3 bottles. So Nick was just trying to dump them on his brother.
I went downstairs. I found out I still have 3 bottles. I'm like, how much tequila do I need?
Party at
Perfect
Nick's
time for the
tequila
trip.
party at Nick's house.
You know what? Though we'll save that case. Well, not we don't have to save the case. But we'll save a few bottles for the new office once it finally gets
do a
done.
tequila
We'll
grand
do
opening.
a tequila party. Yeah.
Get rid of this tequila. Everybody come in.
With
take
the-
Ubers home.
With the amount of glass we have in that office, it can
Oh
only
my
end
God.
poorly.
Oh,
No.
wow.
For the amount of the amount of money that's office is costing us, we were joking. No one's allowed to touch anything. You just come in.
You're
and
gonna
walk around.
plastic wrap
Yeah.
everything like an old
You
like.
just look at it, the office, and you walk out. Get
You know,
out.
at the gym, when you go to the gym, you got to wipe down your furniture, wipe down your equipment after you get off it. This is what you got to do with
Yeah,
these chairs
yeah,
up there in the
yeah.
office.
We're gonna have furniture wet ones everywhere. Just wipe down where you sat.
Actually, with the cost of the interior build out, we're gonna start a new trend. There's no furniture. You just use the floor.
Yeah.
It's a really modern feel. You know what I mean?
Japanese/modern.
Well, it's like yoga, right? Because then you're like one with the earth.
and you
Because
take your
you're-
shoes
because
off
you're-
when you come
Yeah.
in.
Everyone has that
Outside,
standing
they stay
desk, whether
outside.
they want it or not, because we're not paying for chairs.
Standing desk. They just hold their laptop in one hand and type with the other one. It's great.
And listen, I have to share some news that happened in the financial markets today before we get onto this condo talk, because today the Fed had to go in and throw $53 billion into the market. They haven't done that in 10 years. And that's a big deal.
53
billion.
Wow.
Yeah, $53 billion. They haven't done it in 10 years. They weren't supposed to do it. This is an emergency thing.
Canadian or American?
American, so it's real money.
Yeah.
And the Fed's going to apparently, so by the time anyone's listening to this, they'll have already made their decision, but they meet tomorrow. I think they're going to cut rates again. And I was just thinking about if they cut rates, so I think the Fed fund rate, I think it's at 2%. Does anyone know?
No.
That's too geeky.
I thought it was just over. I thought it was 2.25.
Okay, something around
It's
that.
right around
so
there. I
if
think
they
it's
do a
just-
quarter point cut once a quarter, then for 2 years, it would take 2 years to get the rate right down to zero. Right? If it wasn't an emergency and they just did that, which means we could have 2 more years of a crazy stock market. Like if there's nothing crazy that hits the market and they just keep lowering the rates, it would kind of juice the stock market, I got to figure. So it could be 2 years. Like Trump might have, because when's his election? Next year?
Yes, next year and next fall.
Yeah, so he might, if they keep reducing rates, that's why he's on them. He wants a nice
He's trying to
economy
prop
for
it
his
up.
re-election.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So
it is 2.25. That's
It's
what
2
it got dropped to 2.25 in the summer.
Okay, so now if they drop it again, it'll probably go to 2. So yeah, they got 2 years and a bit if they do a quarter point a quarter, dropping it. So this guy might get a raging economy for another couple of years. Like this thing might have legs if you keep reducing rates because they can do that for
It's
2
the
years.
liquidity thing that's freaky because that's what caused that freeze up in 08, right? 08?
Yeah.
Yeah, end of 08.
I think they stopped doing those things in 09, but started in 08, yeah. And
No, but I'm saying the lack of liquidity,
Yeah.
which was what caused the real problems with the Bear Stearns and stuff like that. That's where. they
yeah,
had
well,
to
all
kinda
the
go.
articles are coming out today saying, yeah, there's a little bit lacking cash in the system because the Fed's been tightening up a little bit. But all the comments on the Wall Street Journal, New York Times about today's action are that there's something else going on in the market that no one seems to exactly know. And like that's all that's said. So
Wow.
Remember when you used to like buy a stock and like based on like the fundamentals of the business and like
Yeah.
like profit margins and customer base and stuff. Now you just buy a stock and you just like I don't know. Hopefully like there's no like crazy thing that happens and everything keeps going up.
Yeah, and so here's what I want to get your opinion on is that if the Fed cuts rates, Bank of Canada is going to follow. So the Bank of Canada is going to cut rates. We still seem to have a lot of demand here. Actually, was it Carlo or Mike? Which one of you guys knows how much demand was on that condo that went out?
Both of us.
Yeah, can you? Yeah, can you describe that situation where that condo was and what was the action on it?
So
what? Yeah,
it's kind of unofficial because we're not supposed to.
for context, Galleria Park.
Yeah, Galleria Park.
Yeah,
Right.
phase 1 of 8
I like how you guys
phases.
went from unofficial, not supposed to just naming
Yeah,
the.
we will.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
I think we can share it.
Yeah, why
Um,
not? I will.
Okay, Mike's gonna.
Okay, Mike's gonna share because he's
So out of the high 200 available units, so it was
Yeah.
like 289, 290, something
Yeah.
like that. There was over 2,000
just under
offers. Yeah.
Just under 2,000, or right around 2,000.
just under 300 units, so 290. And
Yeah.
then I
Wait,
keep
sorry, I got to
going back.
recap this. So there's just under 300 units,
Yeah.
and there was just about 2,000 worksheets where people were
Yeah.
putting offers on these things.
Yes.
I don't know. No comment. That's the part that I'm not saying.
Yeah.
anything.
Okay. So there was a lot.
There was a lot.
There
There
was
was
a
almost
high
10
demand.
times the amount.
But in all fairness, too, it was a unique. It is a unique development.
Why?
at,
Yeah. Can you describe it?
Yep. Dufferin and DuPont, phase 1 of 8 buildings to go up. Part of the negotiations with the city was that an 8-acre park had to be built. Galleria Mall was going to be completely revamped to be higher end boutique, and the Emerson Community Center was going to be rebuilt to be one of the second largest community center in Toronto. So to have that, like I was
Yeah.
downtown. We have a mutual friend that came down from California a couple weeks ago. I went downtown with my wife. I grew up in Toronto. I now live in Oakville. But going back downtown Toronto nowadays,
It's a different beast.
oh my, it's Cement City.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say it's Smell City.
That too. Yeah, no, we definitely commented on it.
Hey,
yeah,
hey,
yeah,
Carlo lives
yeah,
downtown.
no offense, yeah, people that live in Toronto, but yeah, just
No
yeah.
offense.
No offense to people who live in
to
Toronto.
the millions and millions of
Yeah.
people that live in
Anyone
Toronto.
who might be living in Toronto.
You guys all smell.
Yeah, but yeah, there's to have that in your
Yeah.
backyard, to have that park, community center, and that boutique mall. Like, there's nothing like that in the
Yeah.
city. And this is just outside of the core too, so you're not in that hustle
But the core
bustle.
keeps growing,
It does, yeah.
right?
For
Just
sure.
like how when my parents moved to Oakville, none of my friends would come to Oakville. Now half my friends live in Oakville, and it's the core just keeps
yeah.
growing.
Even
but-
Oakville, to me, I grew up on the east side of Mississauga, not even
Yeah.
in the city, and Oakville was the edge of the earth.
Yeah.
Like I'm like Oakville, we're gonna go all the way out to Oakville. It was like a real problem in my life to go to Oakville. Like I felt like I was
Yeah.
going to the farm, you know.
And that's the same way that we were talking about in our presentations for Galleria Park. If you don't live in the city, you don't realize that each block is a completely different neighborhood and calls for a different type of profiling. So like people from King West don't really like the people from Queen West. The people everyone.
Oh, really? There's politics like that?
Absolutely. And then like, people automatically profile you when you tell them where you live. That's why, you guys are, I live in Oakville. People profile you guys too, right? And depending on what part of the neighborhood or what neighborhood in Toronto you live in, then you get profiled. But Dufferin and DuPont, going back to the project, super unique. They're going to revamp a whole block that, eight buildings, like Mike was saying, 8-acre park.
Okay, so walk is for people who've never bought condos before. Can you just walk through it? Like, how does that work? How does the whole launch work? How do these worksheets work? Can you just explain that a little bit to paint that picture? Yeah.
First, it's always different, and it's changed. There's no rules to this. It's always changing. It's always based on the market. Just like, a little bit off topic, but not really. Just like any business, you have to move with the market. So I'll backtrack all the way to the first condo project I ever went to. It was either Marilyn Monroe, one of the first phases, where you had to literally walk.
So in Mississauga, the curvy building.
Yeah, that's exactly how everyone would describe it, that curvy building. Anyway, so we would be given what's called the packages with the price lists and layouts. And then we would get a certain amount of time to review it. And then go to your clients and say,
okay, so the builder says, hey, you're a real estate agent.
Yeah.
You can have these packages.
Yes. So even before that, there was exclusive invites for people who have sold in the past or can provide some sort of proof that we're going to be able to sell. And the first one I went to, I got invited. I basically weaseled my way in. I was like 19 years old.
You hustled.
Yeah, and then there was a guy, I don't know if he's still in the game. I don't want to put him on blast either. So let's call him Jacob. So Jacob, the way I got into him, the crazy story is he actually got a DUI. And he was like, the only way I'm going to, and long story short, he was allowed to keep his license if he never drove. So that's why he's like, I have to move to Toronto. And then he started selling condos. And they just would walk or take taxis. And he was the first one that...
He was allowed to keep his license if he never drove?
Yeah, for X amount of time. And he was like, if you get caught driving, your license will be taken away immediately. Got it. And so he's the one who actually got me into the condo game. And he was like, hey, come with me, give me a ride to Toronto. And then he showed me hey, these projects, blah, blah, blah. There's one going to happen in Mississauga, Then he kind of got me into that stuff.
So he had an inside connection.
Yeah, based on all the stuff he was doing in Toronto.
Okay. And
then he got me in. So then you get packages and worksheets, and you get to review it. And this is the good old days where condos were $130,000. And then you have 2 weeks or a week to review, 10 days. And then you have the launch date. It's usually on a Saturday.
So you get the packages. You can share them with your clients or any condo buyers that you might know.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
And the internet wasn't an everyday communication type thing yet. And so I remember I would literally go to all the businesses locally and be like, hey, you guys want to invest in this condo, blah, blah, blah. And let's say we got it, what's today, a Tuesday? So let's say it's next Saturday, the event. We'd have to bring all of our clients to that event on Saturday and line up outside. So if I had 15 people, I would literally bring them all. And thinking about this, it actually makes it the most fair because you know that the builder isn't lying. Whoever shows up first, you get first access based on the invite. So it's really an exclusive group, 50 people. And then you literally, let's say you guys are my clients, you 4. Whoever shows up first, you get to choose first.
You know there's only 3 of us sitting here.
I know.
So that's fine.
Sorry.
I'm like, who's the 4th person?
I was thinking the same thing.
You can't see that person sitting next to Mike? Shit.
Because that ayahuasca has some lasting effects.
No, but okay, go on. So you go with your people.
Yeah, and then...
The doors open.
Yeah, you 4, I said.
Yeah. Us 4, we go.
And then there's a giant board, and it shows all the units. So then us 4 before, us 3, the 10 days before... we're labeling which units we like. And then we walk up to the board, the Rockstar board there, show all the units. And let's say Nick's first. And I'd be like, hey, Nick, your top choice, it's got a red dot on it. It's not available. Your second choice, it's available. You want it? And then we'll be like, okay, we want this unit, blah, blah, blah. They put a red sticker on it. Then you'd go wait. And they'd drop the paperwork. And then Mike would be next and be like, this is... all right, your first choice is available.
I actually do like that way. It didn't mean that everyone had to go there, but I kind of do like that way.
It just meant we were at the sales office for 14 hours.
Yeah, damn.
That's the painful part.
That's
the way they move with their paperwork is so extensive.
Yeah.
So it definitely was.
And you really don't know what you're signing, but you feel pressured that you got to sign it to get the deal. And,
well, because it's
it's
80 pages.
I know.
And then that transformed into the board to fax it in on a certain date and time. and then turned into emails.
Okay, and what it is now, so on this one that just went down that we were talking about,
Yeah.
now it's not go there at all. It's if you have interest, you fill out a little worksheet, which is basically your name.
You still got to find a VIP broker to get you in.
Okay, so you need someone who has access.
Yeah.
You fill out a worksheet that basically, what's on the worksheet? It's just your name and like how much you're willing to spend.
Yeah, not even that. It's every worksheet would be a little bit different, but the basics are covered. Your information, and then your top 5 choices as an example. Top 3 to 5 choices.
Of condo units or floors or?
Both. Yeah,
Both.
units and floors.
Yeah.
Units and floors.
And
okay.
that's it.
And then you just send those over to the builder?
Yeah, for this project.
Okay.
Yeah. You send it over. They gave us a specific portal to log in and submit our worksheets. And it was open for a certain day, like 3 days, I believe. And then, I spoke with some of the sales team at the sales center, and they did a full lottery, which was kind of cool, but kind of like, shit, that sucks, because we try to push to get. It used to be come first, come first serve,
because they can say they did a lottery, but who's really going to audit that?
Exactly.
And basically they just gave them the right to pick who they wanted to give condos to.
Yeah.
And it's their project, so they control it. So good for them.
Yeah.
But on the outside, it's like, ugh.
I know. But I did speak to other people that I know that are big players in condos, and some of them didn't get units either. So
oh, really?
They're definitely not happy. But at the same time, it's like that's why so what I've been telling people. And Mike and I have been talking about it, and what we've been telling people is it's kind of like being in multiple offers. If you're in multiple offers, you have a hard cap, just put your budget, just put what you can afford and walk away and just see what we get.
See what happens.
But the benefit between that and this is this is not a firm deal. Like, you still have 10 days from the day you sign your offer.
Got it. And really, if they select your name, it's just a worksheet. You haven't actually signed any paperwork or anything.
Exactly.
Which is the risk, I guess, to the builder.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to call people who are not real and all that, who say, thanks for, I got selected, but forget it. I don't want the unit.
Well, what is it? Like 25% of people, and not even just from the worksheet to the documents. After people sign the documents, isn't it like 1/4 to 1/3 of people typically back out?
Yeah. But
so buyer's remorse, the 10-day cooling off period, people are like, screw it.
Yeah, because you don't know your actual price until you show up and you sign your document. So like, even if
Toronto's awesome right now, just give us some money.
And again, this isn't a knock to anyone at this project or anything, but this was probably one of the most undetailed price lists I've ever seen.
Because they knew the demand was so high, probably.
I think it was just a rush. They were trying to get it out. I don't think it was like a ploy. It was more like, okay, 1-bedrooms start at this price. But there was like 17 1-bedroom layouts, all different square footages.
No premium per floor, so we didn't know.
We don't know what the premium per floor
to a certain height, but we had no idea.
Yeah.
Okay. And then Nick, is that similar to what you went through on that recent purchase you did? No, you went.
That was
you
a
went
little
in
bit different.
person.
I went.
It was like a Saturday. You had to go.
It was like the old school
but I
way.
knew. But I was just going to sign the papers, so I already knew that I got it.
Okay,
so I submitted a worksheet.
Okay.
There was an allocation.
You knew you had it, so you were going in on that Saturday.
I was going in just to sign the paperwork.
Okay.
So when you got allocated your unit, did they tell you your price right away?
It wouldn't be good if I remembered that type of stuff.
I know. I was going to say this
I'm pretty sure I knew.
Maybe 15 years ago.
No, I'm pretty sure I did.
Okay.
I think I did know the price. Maybe not the exact price.
I feel like you knew the price too for some reason.
I want to feel like I want to say yes.
Yeah, there's usually a range. So like you won't know. Like everyone can do their calculations, but anyway, that's.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I knew the price. I just didn't know. I think there was going to be like some
additional costs.
Yeah, there was some additional costs. And
like development charges.
It ended up being a little bit, not even those. There was something else. Maybe it was like parking or locker, that type of stuff. I didn't know that. Condo fees, just the typical stuff. So I didn't have all the details.
Yeah.
But I think overall I had the price of that. Oh, that's what it was. If it was an end unit, what the premium was for an end unit versus something. That's what I didn't know, that type of stuff.
Oh, that's right, because it was like a condo townhome that you were buying.
Yeah.
Sorry, it wasn't a condo apartment kind of thing.
It was Stacktown.
Stacktown.
So if you had to guess, how different was the price that when you actually signed from what, if you even did the calculation?
No, it's pretty close.
Okay.
It was really, really close, actually.
But that was another project where they announced how many floors, and then they...
I totally forget. It's funny. I was thinking about that when you were telling that story, Carlo, and I totally forget. But I know like 2 weeks before closing, they added multiple floors to the building based on the demand they had.
Yeah.
So that's what they did. And I forget the numbers. I'll totally butcher them. But it wasn't like they added one. They added, 3, 4, 5, something like that. I want to say 3 or 4. But
to layer on top of that, I told Tom before we started recording that a lot of people don't know that the Marilyn Monroe project, the Absolute Condos, was only supposed to be one 50-story building. and it actually changed to 2 50-story buildings based on the VIP selling X amount of percentage.
Yeah, well, that's what these guys.
I remember that.
Yeah.
That was in like all the papers. That sales office was crazy.
It was nuts. It was nuts.
But how many buildings went up on that corner?
5.
4. Oh yeah, 5.
So there's 3 30-story buildings and 2 50-story buildings.
Is there? Yeah.
There's only supposed to be 4 36-story buildings and 1 50-story building.
It's so crazy sometimes because you buy these. Like I was in one of the early phases before other buildings were built, and beautiful view. You're like, oh, this is great. Then the other building goes up. You're like, oh, this sucks. I'm just looking to their.
I just
condo
have
now.
shade all day. But what's happened? So price per square foot, because I know in Toronto we're just seeing crazy stuff. What's the stuff that you saw in Oakville? Do you guys remember price per square foot in this Oakville one?
Mike, do you remember?
6 in district.
Yeah,
It was $6.95 average.
Wow.
yeah. Why are you saying wow?
I don't realize the information that I know. Like, so when I first started selling condos, it was about under $200 a square foot in Mississauga, and it was about $400 a square foot in Toronto.
Yeah,
And
no
in
one wants to
Toronto-
hear about that.
What was
anymore.
it's true? No, but okay. So now in comparison, so $6.95 a square foot for this Oakville one. This is what Bronte and Dundas. No,
Yeah, further east? Yeah, I think it's Niagara or
Nega
something.
one,
Yeah.
Okay.
Dundas, and $6.95 a square foot. And what were the Toronto ones that we just talked about?
Oh, they were
$965.
Yeah.
But that's because they're not down like in the downtown
Correct.
core.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right in the
Yeah,
core.
because in the downtown core, you'd be over 1,000.
Yeah,
14.
yeah.
14.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
965, and that's why you guys liked it, because at 965, you're like, hey, this is pretty good.
Yeah.
Well,
And
because
the
eventually the
amenities.
people that are paying 14 are like, look, I'm not going to pay 14 to live here. I'd rather
Yeah.
go pay 965. The commute's not really that bad. There's transit. It's not that far. I can save that much money and go there. It's no
Yeah.
different than why people move out to the suburbs, right?
Mhm.
They'll, like, so it's the same type of principle. You're seeing it all in
Yeah.
those areas. It's no different than why people will leave Mississauga to move to St. Catharines or leave Markham to move to
Yeah.
Whitby or whatever, right? So
And then even from a marketing perspective, there's nothing better than for them to put a billboard up that Galleria 01 sold out in one day, because
Because they got 7 more buildings to go.
exactly, and the hype is real, man. Like that when people do that, people go crazy. Like if you actually go to the sales center, your likelihood.
Oh,
of-
yeah. People get in your audit. People
Yeah.
just lose their mind.
You're not likely going to rescind when you actually go to the sales center and you see the chaos that people deal with on a daily basis. You're not gonna. That's why people want you to go to the sales center.
So what are you seeing in Toronto right now? How many condo developments? Because they're not all selling out like that.
No.
So is this very different that you're seeing now?
For sure,
So describe what you're seeing out there.
Well, one, there's not a lot of master plan communities anymore, which is
Okay.
cool.
And Mike, that's why you like this one so much, because it was
Yeah.
a big master plan community.
And there's a lot of stats that we'll share later with 2 or less, or 4 or more projects, and how the appreciation on them is way different. Like how even in City Place versus all the condos in that C1 or C2 district, there's like a 40% increase in appreciation in projects that have 4 or more buildings. So, which doesn't happen often. And then to backtrack to, most projects are not selling out anymore. I don't know, it's just too expensive. So,
And those would be the individual condo.
yeah, I could be wrong, but again, these builders, they don't share a lot of information.
This is their cost, and it's getting passed down to the consumer. So that's
Yeah.
why you got guys like Brad Lamb that's building in Toronto now. No
Yeah.
longer building in Toronto. He's building out in Hamilton.
Yeah.
Because he can pick up the land for a lot less and still build a
Mhm.
nice building. And
But yeah, I haven't seen a sold out billboard go up in front of a sales center in the same weekend that they released in a long time.
so it's happening out a
But
lot.
that's not normal.
This
But
way.
that's also not. But not in the
No.
same weekend that they release. Like what he said. Like
Yeah.
that type of stuff's not normal.
No.
Like that's not like that sign to me is something I want to stay away from that because
Yeah.
it's not a sign of a healthy market. Maybe I
Yeah.
get in and maybe the market keeps going up, but I'm old school boring. Like I
Yeah.
prefer it when the dynamics are good. Like I know a guy that launched a project. When did he launch it? I guess a few months ago now, and they're at like 80% or 85%.
Which is healthy.
Which
like
is
you were
which is
saying.
totally good. They're getting
Yeah.
construction financing. They're going to have now. They get to increase their rates at these last units, and you know. But that's kind of like a healthier thing,
Absolutely.
right? I don't know.
I-
Sorry, you were going to say what you're seeing same day
Como,
weekends.
Yeah, we had the same thing at Como in Stony Creek. That sold out in the weekend.
Yeah. So, and it's the.
What was the price per square
That's-
foot out there?
High 600s. But again,
was
like
high
that,
600 in
that-
Stony
yeah, but
Creek.
That's that waterfront
okay.
location just off of Fruitland there. Like
Still
that's a
Stony
great
Creek. It's a great location,
By
but it's still
50 Point
Stony
Road?
Creek.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Yeah.
surf right there by the water treatment plant.
And when you say Stony Creek,
You surf in
so
Lake
you're,
Ontario by Stony
just
Creek?
so you're not totally offending anyone. You mean just distance from Toronto, not Stony Creek.
Yeah, no, I love Stony Creek out there.
Like,
I just mean
it just
the
sounded
distance.
like you're like, oh my God.
Stony Creek's in Ontario? Just kidding.
I love the whole Golden Horseshoe. No, I'm just, so thank you, Nick. But I just really mean, holy shit, like that's all the way from Toronto to Stony Creek, and that's the price per square foot.
Yeah.
So the Oakville one looks pretty attractive at the same price point.
Good compared to what you just
Yeah,
said.
except one's on the wall, depending on location.
Yeah.
I'm
This
just
one's a
kind
little
of
bit off.
torn. Like, can the demand continue for this? And it looks like, it can.
Yeah. I don't know.
The biggest threat. So the biggest threats to all, like, if I just think the biggest threats to the condo stuff, it's population growth and monetary policy. Because if there's no access to credit, then real estate suffers. If interest rates go up, real estate suffers. And if the population slows down, the growth has been insane. If it slows down, it suffers. And that's why we watch all this stuff so closely. It's why we're also watching.
And purpose-built rentals. Because as more purpose-built rentals are coming onto the market, which there's way more in the pipeline than there has been for the last 30 years. Right?
But it's still a tiny amount.
No, it's increasing. It's still relative to things, but it's much like it's an impactful amount because there's actually some numbers beside it. You know?
It's not zero.
And it's not like 3,000 units. It's like tens of thousands. I think 1 year's crossing 100. So as those come on the not 100, sorry, not 100,000, tens, but anyways, as those come on the market, that will change things because the condos really become the apartment building.
Yeah.
Like that. So it's serving a dual purpose. It's serving as the condo building and the apartment building.
Has it become the apartment building or has it become the new starter home? Because I think there's a little different.
I think it depends on the city.
Yeah. And I would say up until a few years ago, maybe not the new starter home, but as of a few years ago, probably the new starter home.
It's now even the
too.
new starter home with some overlap.
But that's what I'm saying. It serves as a condo building and an apartment building. So it's a dual purpose. So when I say condo building, I mean people are buying it for like their own, their own residence. Right. But in the past, you weren't getting the condos as much as like the percentage of condos being rented wasn't as high. Right. That's what's changed the demand. So you can buy these things and rent them a lot. And to be honest, too, the percentage of people buying them as a starter home wasn't as high either. So both things combined, it's caused demand to increase way faster than they can keep up with supply.
Yeah.
And there's some big master plan stuff coming out. Nick, we saw the Port, I don't know the name of it, but right around Port Credit, how many freaking buildings they're going to put up on all those
they
lands.
knocked down, what was that, the gas plant there?
Was it like a
coal
plant? Yeah, whatever. There was some industrial there that they're turning around.
It actually looks nice. When we saw the artistic renderings of it, looks amazing. So I don't know what it's.
Yeah, people are canoeing in the little creeks that they built up to it. It looks beautiful.
That place stinks. Like not like terribly don't hang out there, but it actually physically stinks in the summertime.
Yeah, does it? Yeah.
Like the water part there. Sorry.
You go surfing there too?
I've surfed there too. It's
disgusting. Defend everybody. At this point, we're just defending everybody across the city.
This is something that also happens in Oakville. You can have...
Oakville's got a pretty serious stench in some summer nights.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like by Port Credit, it's the same, and you're paying millions of dollars to live right by there, so it's tricky.
I just, Mike, I never got the chance to ask you there. The price per square foot on the Brad Lamb stuff, the Television City condos, that was a few years ago. They were sold. Now, do you remember price per square foot?
So it was expensive back then. It was $670 per square foot. Okay. But at today's standards, that would be cheap.
For right where those were,
right where they are, the amenities. So they had a pool as well, too. So 2 towers, right downtown, all glass condos. Like there's nothing like that exists even today. And
Hamilton's having its big.
It doesn't exist because they're still not building those buildings.
You are right.
No, but Hamilton's due eventually to redo that whole harborfront. With that whole big master plan community. Yeah. Like I know the big players behind it are raising funds.
Yeah, when that gets released, that's
going to be big. Yeah. I feel like that's going to be a huge opportunity for a lot of investors.
So what happens to the steel there, all the steel plants? Are there steel plants? I just drive by them. I'm like,
we should do another.
I installed an Oracle database in the middle of one of those steel plants in a shed, and they dropped in a new IBM server, and I was like the guy who came from Oracle to like install the software on it, and they were playing solitaire on it. Like these steel worker dudes were playing solitaire on this beautiful IBM server that was like the size of half a car. I'm like, holy shit, these guys are just messing around with this server.
That's crazy.
We had one of the guys that's kind of working on the behind the scenes on that out at one of the events last year, maybe. Right?
Yeah, that's
year
right.
And a half ago,
yeah.
one of the Your Life Returns event. We should probably revisit that. It'd probably be insightful to see where it is now.
Yeah. So I just wanted your take. Do you guys think population continues? The biggest thing I can see trending right now is that after Canada arrested the Huawei professional. I think she was a CFO of Huawei or something about a year ago. Apparently, Chinese tourism into Canada and immigration into Canada is somewhat down in the last 12 months, but I don't have data. That's just what I'm starting to see in the media. So I'm really interested in our immigration data this year, because if you're listening to this, you should know that as of March 2019, this year, we released last year's immigration data, and we had 425,000 immigrants on a target amount of 310,000. So we went over by 100,000. And that's part of the reason the population growth in this country is just absolutely exploding.
See, I think even with what you're saying about the Chinese kind of current political situation, if you even remove all or a large percentage of Chinese immigration, which, I mean, it's no secret there's a lot of funds that have been flown in that have come in from China, right, in different areas of Canada. So let's say that number goes back down to 300. That's still a big number, and projections are that number is the 400 is even going to kind of grow in future years. But let's say it comes back down to 300, it's still a very solid number. So it's kind of, I think it might continue unless there's other global changes, because compared to other parts of the world, we're still a wonderful place to live, winter or not. But the only thing is, I just hope that regardless of who wins the election, they don't mess around with the immigration policies too much. Like, we have such a good immigration system. If they start just opening it wide to like, hey, why doesn't anyone come to Canada? I personally don't think that's the best way to do it.
Because
we have a points-based
We've selfishly had a pretty good system.
We've had a
with
great
the
immigration system.
Yeah.
Why it's worked well for Canada? Like, I mean, like, look, man, like
they let our parents in.
How many people from how many people from the States come to Toronto? I mean, I've had multiple American friends come to Toronto. They're like, man, like the multiculturalism in Toronto is just nuts, and it's nuts, and it works out very well compared to a lot of other areas.
We recently had one American come who didn't like the multicultural, and we won't say his name, but yeah, genuinely, it's awesome.
So, but that's what I mean. So, like the current points-based system is I just hope that stays in place and it doesn't shift into a little bit of a different way for kind of evaluating who gets into the country.
There's also no real exodus of Canadians leaving the Golden Horseshoe. Like, I don't know really of anyone that has packed up recently to go somewhere else.
We've all,
hey, out this way would be better.
Yeah,
like,
if you're born here, it's like most of the people I know, if you're born in Toronto, you now live in like Mississauga, Oakville, Milton, Guelph. Maybe you moved to London, and that was like, whoa, you moved out to London?
Yeah.
Even though we're seeing more and more of that.
True.
But you're right. Everyone's kind of still around the Golden Horseshoe somewhere.
If oil comes back, though, you'll see more jobs going. Because remember when in Alberta, when oil was big, there was more and more people going out to Alberta because there was money there. Good money. So if that changes again, you'll see more of that again.
Yeah. So they were leaving Ontario, but not fleeing the country.
No.
But as a local real estate investor here, sure.
It just matters.
But even during that time, because Nick and I had some rent-to-own stuff that was happening where people were remember there was one guy, I think it was an investor we were working with, got a job in Fort McMurray and just walked away from a rent-to-own because like, hey, I'm just going to crush it with my income out there, forget it. And the investor was fine with it. But yeah, maybe we start seeing that kind of stuff again. Who knows?
Yeah, but even then, when the other parts of the country were doing that, like, we still had a very healthy market.
That's the thing.
Here.
We still had a
great market.
It was
nice, slow. It was actually even almost better. It was a nice, slow
balanced
and steady. It was awesome. You know what I mean? Because that breeds stability in the market when it's like that. It was nice. Now it's a little bit kind of. I guess it came back. It kind of settled down. But remember, in what was it, 27? What was the crazy spring? 2017.
2017.
So you could buy something for $1 million in February and sell it for 1.5 in April. Right. Yeah.
Well, Mike, what percentage were you going over on offers and not winning deals? I feel like you were going 30% over. No.
Yeah, in some cases. Yeah,
30% over and losing out on deals. Yeah, that was crazy.
With $1 million average price in Toronto, 30% over is a lot.
Yeah. These were investment properties, so they were probably on properties that were like what, Mike, 450 grand. Yeah, they were lesser properties.
It's $100,000.
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
right?
Yeah. But so if population, we don't think there's an imminent threat of population just collapsing in this area.
My perspective is a little bit different. You guys are good with data and stats and stuff, but just traveling so much. It's kind of like what you're talking about. People come to Toronto and they have no idea that it's like this, that it's so cool, that it's diverse, that we have every type of country in our city. We have.
It is cool, the restaurant scene,
Yeah.
because of all the different cultures, all the different foods that we
I
get.
just had
Oh
relatives
my gosh,
here.
I saw.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry to interrupt.
No,
We'll
it's
pick
right.
up on that. But I was at a conference in San Diego. Nick,
Yeah.
remember this? Mike, do you remember me? You were there, and some guy stops me. He's like, Tom, do you remember me? And I totally didn't remember the guy. It was a guy from like Iowa.
Okay.
Iowa? Is that how you
Yeah.
say it? Iowa? Iowa?
Well, let's offend more
Iowa.
people.
Oh,
I don't
shit.
care.
Iowa? I don't know. Idaho, maybe?
That's
somewhere
next to Stony Creek, right?
Oh, jeez. And he's like,
Does
Tom.
it stink there too?
Oh man. He goes, Tom, remember I consulted with you guys for a couple of days. He was like a CRM consultant that helped us out with some of our database stuff.
Okay.
And he's like, you took me a place to eat. It was a food, and the food
yeah,
was
that's
called
right.
shawarma.
Yeah.
And he's
Oh
like,
my
I
gosh.
went back home. I told everybody about shawarma. He goes, we don't have a single shawarma place in my in my
Dude.
city. And I'm like, dude, you can't get shawarma where you
No.
live. I'm like, what's wrong? That
so crazy.
sucks. We have
Yeah.
shawarma every week, man.
Yeah. On every block,
On
there's
every
an
block, I go,
osmosis.
if a week goes by and I don't have shawarma, there's a problem happening. But
And
yeah.
we don't realize it until we hear those
So sorry,
stories.
yeah. Thanks. Back
Yeah.
to your point. So you're saying that, yeah,
Yeah.
we have it going on here.
Yeah, my cousins were just here. Every time I had cousins here from Germany, Australia, and all these random places, and they'll come here and be like, "Whoa, I forgot you can get everything. Like I can go into Kensington and get Jamaican food, like authentic Jamaican food, and then get Italian food, and then tacos. We're not even anywhere close to Mexico, and we're getting tacos." And Jim and Brian, I've taken them to my favorite burrito spots in Toronto. They're like, "Dude, we lived in Southern California for 10 years, and this is better than any burrito we've had in California."
Yeah, the food scene in Toronto's happening right now, for
so
sure.
there's that factor and then you have like the top 5 Billboard artists are from Toronto. Like you have 3 of the top 5.
Really? So aside from
You can-
Drake, I don't know.
Yeah, you do.
Justin Bieber,
Yeah.
Drake.
And The Weeknd.
Okay, I was gonna say The Weeknd. I'm like,
Yeah.
am I so out of touch?
He's top 5. I don't
The
know,
Weeknd's
man.
The Billboard selling, like in terms
Really?
of sales,
Wow.
yeah. And so
right, well,
there's
it's
that
off.
factor. And I'm sure you guys have experienced this too. When you go places and you're like, oh, I'm from Toronto. 5-6 years ago, I'd be like, Canada.
Yeah,
Nick and I were on a
Right?
cruise when we were kids, and some kids from Texas said, we said we're from Canada. 'Cause
Yeah.
They didn't even know where Toronto was.
Yeah.
We're from Canada. And they legitimately asked us if we lived in igloos.
Yeah.
They thought we lived in igloos.
Yeah.
And you're right, though. And not only that, I just feel like this is Toronto's moment, too, with the NBA, with the Raptors
Yes.
winning,
Yeah.
Bianca winning the U.S. Open. I keep telling my kids, because like all this good news, TFC won I know no one follows the TFC except for us, but they won the MLS Cup. So I keep telling my kids, I'm like, this isn't normal. You're not
No.
supposed to have Canadians from Toronto winning stuff, or Toronto
Yeah.
sports teams. Don't get used to this. But they think it's like, oh, yeah, Toronto's
Yeah.
awesome. We win all this kinds of stuff. I'm like, no, you have to suffer. You have to suffer like the rest of us, like me and your uncle.
And one thing that people loved that I was sharing during that condo launch was I go to New York a lot. I have a lot of relatives there. And everyone outside of New York just thinks of New York as New York. But everyone in New York, you have, just like Toronto, has the greater New York area. So if you're from Queens, you're from New York. If you're from Brooklyn, you're from New York. And if same from Toronto, if you're from Toronto, you're Toronto. If you're Mississauga, you're in Oakville. You still say I'm from Toronto. But New York is crazy, where if you go to Queens, which is basically Toronto's Mississauga, the biggest suburb, you don't feel like you're ever leaving the city. And we're starting to feel like that, where you go from Toronto to Mississauga. There's a big difference if you grew up in Mississauga and you're like, whoa, this is Mississauga. But if you're actually like new, you're like, whoa, this is a live city. Like Port Credit's a cool thing now. Celebration Square is packed all the time. And it reminds me of Queens and in New York.
Yeah, I think most people, you're right. I think because we live here and most investors who live here and invest here, you
Yeah.
don't realize what's happening in
Yeah.
Toronto. I was recently in Miami, and then just seeing the amount of development going on there compared to here. Like
Yeah.
we have cranes everywhere.
Yeah.
And I know Miami's kind of happening, but there's like relative, there's nothing
There's
happening.
just one scene. That's it.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the only thing
Yeah.
you can like
Yeah.
that, you know, and Toronto is like all these little microcultures of every little thing that's happening.
Yeah, I totally feel like this is our growth moment. And
Yeah.
and then when you layer on the monetary policy that the U.S. has to continue to have with low interest rates, that just feeds the boom here. And there's just one last thing. GDP growth, I think, is when you study it in economics, the equation is labor times capital, and then they mix in productivity. Here, we have all this labor here because our population is growing, and we have all this capital because hot money's flying in from other countries, but also there's cheap money because of monetary policy in this area. So I'm like, holy crap, are we in an environment where we have like this perfect mix of population and labor. And when you multiply all that together, the economic growth in this area is just going to continue to be fire for a few years. And I don't have the crystal ball. And it's why it's why we've always been nervous on condo stuff, because some of the condos have not always cash flowed.
Yeah.
But we now have some investors who've made a killing in real estate, Mike, that have worked with you specifically in the last 10 years, who are like, hey, man, I have X number of dollars in equity, sometimes several million. And now my kids, I want them to have a condo in Toronto. So I don't care if it doesn't cash flow. I'm taking some equity out of some of my rental properties, and I'm going to buy 2 condos in Toronto. Yeah. And that's then also feeding the market, right?
For that last project that Carlo and I were involved with, we had renters, well, one specifically, that put an offer on a condo.
Yeah.
Not for themselves to move into, to rent out, because they've been in their rental at Yonge and Eglinton for so long that they're paying way below market, that they see it as advantageous that they buy and then lease for market rent.
That's cool. I never thought about that. That's smart.
So they're going to stay where they are.
Where they are.
Yeah, because of rent controls. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
I have multiple friends like that will own condos, and they will not give up their rental because it's way cheaper. Like the same, we were talking about this during the presentation. The average rent in August for a 1-bedroom in downtown Toronto jumped up to $2,450, and if you started renting 5-6 years ago in Toronto, you're talking about $1,400 probably for that unit.
Yeah, and just on that note, my mind was blown when Andrea on our team was sharing her numbers on a duplex that she bought, and she rented out the top floor in I think that was Hamilton. Yes. She bought this house for like $500 and change. She rented out the top floor for $2,125, and I think she's renting out the bottom for $1,600.
Yeah.
So that's like it's this one prop. We would have rented out that whole home about 5 years ago for $1,750, $1,800. Now that one home is generating what's 21.25, 31.20, 36.25. Yeah. So $3,700. Whereas just a few years ago, that one property for the investor would have generated like $1,800 in income.
Wow.
It's almost double.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So anyway, just any other
on the rates note, I'm thinking, when's the Fed announcement? Tomorrow. So
by the time this is out, they'll have announced.
So I think they might cut. I think Canada's going to hold off, though. I don't think they're going to.
They're just going to play stubborn, like we're in control.
I think they're going to hold off for the rest of the year.
Are we betting cases of Don Julio? Just kidding. I'm not.
No, I mean you can't make sense of the bankers.
Which will help short term, because it's just our
if
dollar is
oil
so
goes
weak.
up,
I don't think they want our dollar this week. I think they want the dollar a little bit
and now
more
that there's this
established.
oil problem with the Saudi bombing or whatever all that was all about.
I could be wrong, but we'll see. That's what my gut tells me. But long term, as the Fed cuts, Canada can't hold on for long. They need a cheaper dollar. So the U.S. dollar cheapens, the Canadians.
And we might get a stronger dollar. I wonder how strong we might get a stronger dollar just with all this oil stuff going on.
I think it's going to be short-lived.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I have no clue either.
I lean on you guys for that information. What does this mean? Does it mean the world's going to melt? That's
too
literally
new.
why I text you.
It's too new. Well, apparently there's Brazilian forests on fire.
Well, the actual globe is going to melt. I don't care about the economy. The economy is what it is.
Mike, were you going to, I see you looking at something. Were you going to mention it? No, yeah. Okay. Cool. Thanks, guys. Appreciate the chat. Mike, take care of all your bandages, please. If you're going to inject blood back into your body,
His name's
please
Kobe.
Tell us. Nick, you need some damages.
No, I'm going to the airport right now. I'm flying to Peru. I'm going to beat you there, man.
Thanks, guys. Carlo, thank you. Man. We give you a hard time. I appreciate this, man.
Thanks, man. Guys. No problem.
Hey, everyone. So hopefully you enjoyed that chit chat. Definitely a bit of a casual episode. If you are looking for some real estate investing data, the best place to go to from us right now is rockstarinnercircle.com. We have our books available for free downloads on there. We have reports available. We have the class that we host in the office here available for you to register off that website, as well as links to different videos that we put out. So we're trying to put a bunch of Canadian specific real estate information all in one place, and that place is rockstarinnercircle.com. Thank you for everyone leaving us reviews on iTunes. We really appreciate it. If you haven't had a chance to and you feel like we've earned it, please do so. That's it for now. Until next time, your life, your terms.